Hi YouTube, it's Kathy, and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for December 20th through 26th. This week I read 2 books, I watched 6 shows, I watched 3 movies, and I listened to 1 book. First this week I finished Blonde Roots, which is one of the many Life's Library books that I'm catching up on, and it was also one of my reads for the Reindeer Readathon. This is a satire that takes place in a world where instead of Europeans enslaving Africans, it happened the other way around. Our protagonist is originally from a small town in England, is captured when she's a child, and taken to Africa to be a slave. This book really excels at cognitive dissonance because especially at the beginning there were so many idioms that the author had slightly changed to suit this type of world, and your brain would come across them and be like, wait, why would there be camels instead of horses, or that type of thing. We also got to see things like the beauty standards being very, very different, and our character having to try to prop herself up even though everything in the world around her is telling her that she looks wrong. This ended up being told in a couple of different perspectives, so you didn't really know how things were going to go for this woman who was trying to escape and go home after years of being enslaved. And it has a lot of very valuable social commentary. This week I also read Barry Squires' Full Tilt. This one takes place in Newfoundland. I want to say it was set in the 90s, although I don't think it actually said that in the text. And it has to do with the Squires family, most specifically Barry or Finbar Squires, who is, I believe, 12 years old at the time. He has an older brother and sister. He has a little brother named Gord, who he absolutely loves, who is about 6 months old, and he spends a lot of time hanging out with Gord because he thinks Gord is the coolest person in the entire world. He also lives with his parents and his nan, and he has some anger management issues and apparently never really hangs on to any activity that he wants to do for very long, usually because he gets kicked out of it because of said anger management issues. What we see throughout this book is he is a very complex child. He does have the capacity to be very nice to people, but he doesn't go around being like, look how nice I am to these people. He just does these nice things, and then his family has no idea about it. During the course of this book, he also makes a friend whose family I believe is originally from Pakistan, and there's definitely some social commentary there because Finbar is all like, I don't think anybody in Newfoundland is racist, and his friend is like, I don't think you have any of the qualifications to tell me whether or not they are because I live it every day. This book also made me sob about 80% of the way through for a very specific thing that I did not see coming. It could be considered a spoiler, but I am going to give this trigger warning just because it's important. It wasn't personally triggering to me, but I definitely know at least one person it will be very triggering to. So if you don't want to know, just mute for a moment, but trigger warning for sudden infant death. This book is about family and grief and community, and I really enjoyed it. On to the shows I watched this week. I watched a little bit of everything. We finished off all of the rest of Jeopardy that was available on Netflix, so we'll probably have to wait another 6 months until there's more of that for us to go through very, very quickly. It's just really fun and really easy to sit down and watch hours upon hours of Jeopardy at once. The Great Canadian Baking Show also had a holiday episode, so it's tacked on the end of the 3rd season, but it has a couple of contestants from the 1st season and the 2nd season come together just for 1 episode to make some Christmassy holiday type things, and of course it's the Great Canadian Baking Show, so it's nice and wholesome and delightful. I also finished the last few episodes of Glow Up, which I started a few weeks ago and then forgot I was watching because I got busy with other things. This is a makeup artist TV show where they go head to head on these different creative challenges, and I liked who won. If the person that came in second ended up winning, I was gonna be mad just because she was in the bottom like 5 times, and the person she knocked out in the second to last episode made me super angry because she shouldn't have gone home, so there was that. I also really liked how far the 3rd place person got because they were very new to the field and also had some limitations that the other artists didn't have. Because this was Christmas week, we also watched a couple of the Christmas episodes of Bones, which if you've never seen it before is a forensic show. Since it's one of those shows that kind of goes throughout the year, usually there are Christmas episodes, so we watched a couple of those. I had seen them before, but I hadn't seen them in a very long time, and it was interesting to see what was going on with the characters between one year and another year, because in the first episode we watched, Temperance's father and brother were both in jail, and then the second year we watched, they weren't anymore, and I can't remember how those subplots go because it's been a very long time, but again, very fun to revisit these characters. We also got through a 2-part special from the Orville in the 2nd season. If you've seen the show before, you probably know a big catastrophic thing happens, but if you haven't seen it before, I obviously can't tell you about it. That's the weird thing about talking about TV shows. I can be like very vague about them and be like, we got to this big part, it's the 2-parter near the end of the season. I can't really say anything besides, ooh, wow. We're also into the second season of Community, which actually means that we got through not only the Halloween episode this week, but we got through the Christmas episode, which is the claymation episode, which is obviously very, very delightful. This is one of those shows that I can't remember how many seasons I watched because I used to watch it about a decade ago with my boyfriend's little brother, and then went to Europe, stopped watching it because I was doing other things. Don't know how far I got, so eventually we'll have to watch it all and see what all this Darkest Timeline stuff is and that type of thing. So I'm aware that these things exist. I don't know what they mean. This week we also watched Love Actually because that's just a holiday classic staple movie to watch, and I love watching it every time that it comes on. It has my favorite string of swearing in it that I've ever heard in a movie, and it's right at the beginning, which is what caught me in, and I knew that I was going to love it, and then I just love the intertwining nature of the different storylines. I know it's not a perfect movie. Doesn't matter. As for movies I'd never watched before, we watched Jingle Jangle, which is absolutely delightful. If you haven't seen it yet, I highly suggest it. This is a Christmas musical kind of set in the past to do with inventors, and it has a lot of wonderful talent. I didn't even know that Forrest Whitaker could sing. And then I also didn't know that the bad guy could sing. I'm not gonna spoil who that was because that was a delightful reveal. I also really enjoyed that this movie was intergenerational, and it just gave me some warm and fuzzies and the magic of Christmas and inventing, and it was really good. Go watch it. We also watched the 1951 version of Scrooge, or A Christmas Carol, with Alistair Sim. This was very fun to watch. It was kind of interesting to see how they did the ghosts, because the first three that you see, they had this kind of like transparentness to them, and I was like, how did they do that in 1951? I could probably ask Chad, he would probably know, but it was kind of fun to watch and just wondered. From what I noticed, this stayed fairly close to the book, and I only know that because I recently read it in a live stream with friends of mine, so I will try to remember to link that in places if you haven't seen it, because that was a lot of fun. But I had never seen this version before, and my friend said that it was his favorite, so we ended up watching it on Christmas. The book I read this week was Frankissstein by Jeanette Winterson, and I have really mixed feelings about this one. We get a couple of different timelines. One is around the time that Mary Shelley is writing Frankenstein, and one is kind of in our present day, having to do with characters that have names that are very similar to characters or the writer of Frankenstein, but they're set primarily in and around an expo talking about sex toys, but also talking about AI and making AI sex toys, basically. And then the main character in that timeline is trans, but the way that people talk about that transness really left me feeling weird and gross. And because to my knowledge the author wasn't trans, that whole representation felt really weird to me. The positive thing I can say about it is the writing is really beautiful, so if you like beautiful writing, you'll like that aspect of it, but it didn't really come together the way that I wanted it to. That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't feel like leaving a comment but want to make sure that I know you were here, just leave me an emoji or a smiley face if you're on your computer. Some people have asked if there's a way to financially support this channel, so I set up a Ko-fi account, which is a digital tipping service. The link for that is down below, as well as the link to my PayPal and my Amazon wishlist in case you would like to buy me a book. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!